We have a little detour that we are going to take here for a couple of minutes. We have a very special guest that dropped in to honor Rabbi Gans. That would be Congressman Donald Norcross from our area. Congressman, Rabbi.
These are special times, and today becomes particularly special. Number one, that when we celebrate somebody's life, their life's work, it's always very special that they're still here to hear it, which is always a big plus. That we can say things and talk about somebody for what they've done, who's given back so much. So I have the opportunity here, and I just, in a few moments, hearing so many great stories, but I had to meet this rabbi who graduated from the Baptist seminary. And while I'm reading this, I'm double checking. I said, do we have this right? I said, this is unique, but it brings that special perspective, keeping your mind open to so many things. And that's, I guess, why you have been so successful over your lifetime. So we just want to present with you this House of Representatives proclamation that talks about your life's work and your life's history. Here on May 22nd, with friends, family, and important members of the community will gather for brunch to celebrate the tenure of Rabbi Gans. And it goes on to talk about the great work that you've done over your lifetime. And we just wanted to take a few moments that we here in the 1st District of New Jersey, State of New Jersey, now I know you're over the line, but you're actually in the 1st District now, and I'm sure my colleague Tom MacArthur, who I called just to double check that we were okay, that we wanted to commend your tenure and your service to not only the community at whole, but the entire country. Congratulations on your retirement. God bless.
We're going to do a little joke first. I like how everybody goes, uh-oh. Uh-oh. I promise. So there's a foursome out on the golf course, and they're discussing how they got their wives to let them come out to play golf on that particular Saturday morning. The first golfer, he says, well, I had to promise my wife I would paint the whole interior of the house next weekend. That's not so bad. Second golfer goes, well, I had to promise my wife a brand new pool deck next weekend. Third golfer, he says, well, you guys are getting off easy. I had to promise my wife a complete kitchen remodel. You know how much that's going to cost me? Fourth golfer goes, you guys are idiots. What's the matter with you guys? I set the alarm for 5:30 in the morning. The alarm goes off. I nudge my wife with my elbow. I go, golf course or sex? She goes, make sure you take your sweater. It's going to be cool today. All right, so we have our next threesome. I'd like you all to come up together to give your little speeches. We have Rabbi Aaron, Rachel Gomot, and Cantor Leibovic. Would you all please come up?
So I was told I have 3 minutes, but I'm a rabbi, so we count time differently. I can give you a lecture about time and its biblical connection. That's beautiful. It says power off. In the opening chapter of Pirkei Avot, Chapters of the Sages, we encounter the instructions of the 1st century BCE teacher, Joshua ben Parachia, who said, get yourself a teacher, a Rav, find yourself a friend, a Chaver. Today we gather to honor and celebrate our Rav, our teacher, and my Chaver, my colleague and best friend, Rabbi Gary Gans, for a lifetime of service to Congregation Beth Tikva, from now on CBT, the Jewish community of Southern New Jersey, and the Jewish world. I met Gary and Eileen, Rabbis Gans and Schneider, when I first entered the Reconstructionist Rabbinical College in 1976. I was the newbie, and Gary was completing his tenure as a student. Gary showed me the ropes. We shared some Hebrew literature classes together, and we forged a bond that lasted and lasts to today. When I began my rabbinic career at Temple Har Zion in Mount Holly, Gary was already the beloved rabbi of CBT. Once again, he guided me, the newbie, now new to the rabbinate, into this wonderful community. He showed me the ropes, and we shared some exercise classes at the old JCC. That was an experience. 5 rabbis, myself, your Rabbi Gans, Rabbi Feinblum of Temple Sinai, Rabbi Jerry David of Temple Emmanuel, along with his senior colleague, the late Rabbi Ed Soslow. We exercised twice a week with a group of retired dentists, businessmen, and pharmacists, all community leaders. The class was led in fractured Yiddish by Joe Tomar, one of the pharmacists. And in the course of a few years, we all developed a strong bond to each other in the community. It is not surprising, therefore, that all the then young rabbis chose to spend our entire rabbinic careers here in southern New Jersey. Gary and I, my wife Gail and his wife Eileen, have shared so much over the years. We shared good times and difficult ones. I introduced Gail to Gary and Eileen long before I introduced her to my family. I needed their hashkama, their seal of kashrut. Gary and Eileen officiated at our wedding. We welcomed each other's children into the world and into Jewish life. We spent those rare Friday evenings when rabbis are free, celebrating Shabbat together. And we often joined the Gans Schneider crowd for many Passover Siddurim. We helped each other deal with the joys and at times the challenges of raising children. And I think we did a pretty good job. We supported each other as our parents faced the challenges of aging and comforted each other in times of loss. It is really good to have rabbis as one's best friends. And Gail and I are blessed to have Gary and Eileen. Now, as you know, Gary is a Reconstructionist rabbi, a follower of the great Rabbi Mordechai Kaplan. Gary's career illustrates Kaplan's 6 guiding principles for rebuilding, restructuring, and reconstructing Jewish life. So his first principle, the rebuilding of Eretz Yisrael as the creative center of Judaism. Gary has been a strong advocate for Israel throughout his entire rabbinic career. He speaks Hebrew fluently with a very good Israeli accent. He maintains constant contact with his family in Israel. He has taken great joy in sharing Israel with the young people of CBT as their rabbi on so many confirmation trips. He represents a strong, supportive, progressive voice in support of Israel here in our community. The second principle, the creation of an adequate social structure for democratic Jewish communal life in the diaspora. Gary's vision of a synagogue community has always been one of rabbinic and lay cooperation and participation. What gives CBT its strength and distinctive character is its understanding that a synagogue can only be the center for successive Jewish life when all feel that they are responsible stakeholders in the community. Gary has shown that this is not a vision, but a reality, and he is an inspiration to younger colleagues. The third, the redirection of Jewish education to conform with the conception of Judaism as a religious civilization. Gary, as you know, is also a highly trained Jewish educator. If you happen to enter his office, you will see Jewish educator certificates from Gratz College proudly displayed on his wall with all his other certificates, diplomas, and achievements. He has worked very hard to ensure that the goal of the educational program at CBT was to train people, young and old, to be engaged Jews. Not merely to be synagogue literate, but not merely to be synagogue literate, but to provide them with a solid Jewish knowledge base and a strong understanding of the Jewish tradition in order to enable them to A, engage successfully with a broad scope of Jewish life, and B, find ways to live creatively as Jews in our very diverse American culture. 4, revitalization of the Jewish religion. Gary has always understood that one of the fundamental goals of liberal rabbis is to create a Jewish spiritual space that engages and excites Jews. All of us, rabbis as well, come to our Jewish heritage from so many different directions. We are a diverse group in so many ways. Gary has taken up the challenge of building a community where all can be welcomed. Life can be celebrated, issues can be discussed, and people can find meaning. Gary's training and experience and counseling enables him to understand the deep human needs to which the Jewish spiritual tradition responds. I have learned much from him, and I have benefited greatly from his counsel and his advice. The 5th, the stimulation of Jewish cultural creativity in literature and arts. We all know Gary's interest in Jewish and Israeli culture. He is up on the latest Israeli TV shows. If you attend the Jewish cultural programs at the JCC, the ABC Festival, and the Film Festival, you are very likely to see Gary. And of course, he is the best supporter and the biggest fan of Rabbi Eileen Schneider's mystery series that features a woman rabbi as the hero. The 6th and final principle, the participation of Jewry in social movements that seek more freedom, stricter justice, and better cooperation among people and nations. Throughout his career, Gary has worked with people from all backgrounds to build a better world, particularly in our small portion of the world. He has been a wonderful ambassador representing Jews and Judaism to the clergy and religious communities of southern New Jersey. He has taken a leadership role in community organizations, including, I think, a couple of terms as president of the Tri-County Board of Rabbis, a true hero. He has worked closely with the JCRC, reaching out to our elected representatives, community and religious leaders, to promote greater awareness of the Jewish community and deeper mutual understanding and love. His latest adventure, serving as chaplain for the Evesham Police, is just another example of his dedication for building a better community, doing tikkun olam, fulfilling the dream of making the world better, and that olam katan, that small world in which we all live, and in which we can make a significant and lasting contribution. Today we are celebrating the beginning of a new chapter of Gary's career and life. I know he is excited about becoming an active emeritus rabbi, and that he has deep respect and fondness for Nathan, soon to be officially called Rabbi Nathan Weiner, who will be CBT's new spiritual leader. I am going to cut it off because I want to say how excited I am that in a few weeks, Gary and I hope many of you, will be there to celebrate Nathan's ascension to the rabbinate. And I want to thank... as we also give thanks to the Holy One for all the blessings we have received by having Gary Gans, Rabbi Gans, as our Rav and our Chaver. Amen v'amen.
Good afternoon. I'm honored to be speaking here, and I wanted to say thank you to the committee for asking me. 21 years ago next month, I finished my formal education at Congregation Beth Tikva, as I was confirmed along with 8 other students. 21 years ago. I can still name each and every one of them. And while we have gone our separate directions, we all share a connected history. Through our entire Jewish education at CBT, we knew Rabbi Gans was as our spiritual leader, but it wasn't until our confirmation class that we had the opportunity to spend time with him and learn what that meant. Every Thursday night, the 9 of us, 8, 15, and 16-year-olds, and the rabbi, would sit down as he created a space where we felt free to talk honestly. And creating a space for people to feel comfortable is something Rabbi Gans excels at. I remember September 12, 2001. The Twin Towers had just crumbled. My mother had just told me that for the first time in my life, she couldn't tell me everything was going to be okay. Beth Tikva opened its doors to the congregants looking for solace. For a small sanctuary, that room can sure fit a lot of people. I remember listening to Rabbi Gans speak the night after 9/11. I have to be honest, I don't remember what he said, but I remember coming away from that evening with the sense that maybe, just maybe, things would be okay. And I remember so vividly the feeling of community felt within that sanctuary. Rabbi Gans always knows just what to say. From there's always next year, when his beloved Eagles and Phillies fail to get it done, to the much more serious conversations congregants face during life-threatening surgeries or when someone needs help picking up the pieces after the devastating loss of a loved one. Rabbi Gans, as everybody can attest to, is always there for his congregation. Like so many of you here today, Rabbi Gans and Beth Tikva have woven their way through the fabric of my life, and he's been there every step of the way for me. He was there in the sad times, when I lost several grandparents, when I lost a dear, dear friend. But enough with the sadness, this is a party. Rabbi Gans was there with me, celebrating with my parents, Steve Sacro and Freda Sacro, as I became a bat mitzvah, as my mom became a bat mitzvah, as I got confirmed, as my mom got confirmed. Are you starting to see a pattern here? Rabbi Gans and Cantor Leibovich officiated at my mom's wedding to Steve Stern in 2004, and 2 years later at my wedding right here at the mansion. I was so privileged to have two people who had such a role in shaping my Jewish identity stand there as I took that next step on the journey. This is just my story. So many of my contemporaries have similar ones. Alyssa Jacobs, a fellow confirmation student, and a close friend, remembers fondly that Rabbi Gans officiated as she became a bat mitzvah, and when she stood under the chuppah to marry her bashert, her soulmate. Aaron Pollack, another student in our confirmation class, now sends his son to Kelman Academy, the local Jewish day school. This is because of the educational background he got from Rabbi Gans. Similarly, Lauren Blask, yet another student in our class, sends her children to Jewish day school out in Arizona, and she's now on the board of her synagogue. Sharon Rosenberg, who went through Beth Tikva's Hebrew school and is sitting at my table here today, is the director of alumni relations at Brandeis. She told me how she always thinks of the fact that Rabbi Gans and CBT were ahead of their time. Back when her parents and she joined in the early 80s, it was unusual for a synagogue to be egalitarian, but Rabbi Gans was always committed to that idea. She often tells people that she was raised conservative and always egalitarian. Frank Myers, who didn't grow up at Beth Tikva, but who looks forward to attending CBT Rosh Hashanah services with his parents, Howard and Zara, here today, instilled Jewish values in his two girls, Hannah and Julia, by sending them to Bethel Synagogue's religious school. Bethel's a conservative synagogue in East Windsor, where Frank was in the emerging leaders class, and where he will be joining me on the board of trustees starting in July. So I ask you to raise a glass to the man who has been a guiding force for so many people here today, whose career has spanned 35 years, but whose imprints on our collective soul will last a lifetime. Rabbi Gans, may you continue to go Mechael, from strength to everlasting strength.
Okay, up next is Gary Gans' partner in crime, longtime friends, Kenner Joe Leibovich.
As an attention getter, I'm going to play a short little video clip and then we'll talk. Look who's there. Look at that. This is 1993.
This is not the end. May you and your family have many opportunities for simply health and happiness. And let's all say amen and amen.
Okay. I guess all of you, or maybe most of you, identify with that scene, right? Okay, we all went through this. These are the memories. Did you notice the big mustache and the Jewish afro? Okay, that was a long time ago. The reason why I wanted to bring it up was because, and to introduce my little talk, is because people identify with this, and it's part of a life cycle event. And Gary has certainly been part of my life cycle events, and I have been part of his life cycle events. It's many, many years together. It's a lifetime career, and that's what I wanted to talk about. Well, how do I start? We have a common background. Gary is, can you hear me well? Okay. Gary is the chip off my old block. That is in Northeast Philadelphia. We hung in the same circles, but we didn't know each other. And I think it's a very good thing, since we could have gotten into a lot of trouble. And if we would have gotten into a lot of trouble, boy, the future would be a mess. Okay, we wouldn't be standing here. Maybe, it's like Back to the Future. If something happens, everything changes. So anyway, that's our background together. All right, so I didn't know how to begin this, and I sort of sat on the topic, on the task that I had in my hand. I just didn't know how to proceed, because how do you summarize over 30 years worth of lifetime together? And I was just sitting there and not doing anything. But as always, if you let it stew a little while, something comes up and it crystallizes. I brought it up to my daughter Yael, and she says, it's a very simple thing. Start listing the things you like about Gary. Okay? So I started. Well, what else do I like about Gary? Oh, he is the same height as I am. Okay? Well, seriously. We have been together for over 30 years. Do you realize that other than Sophie, that's my wife, Gary is my longest relationship. Yep. Love you. Okay. We know each other so well that we have established a subliminal communication system between us. We have whole conversations by one look. Okay? And I'll give you a little example of that. Okay? Here's look one. Okay? And you know what that means? He's talking to me here. Okay? He says, "It's late. Speed up the cantering. I have a hot date at home. Shabbos mitzvah, you know." Okay. Okay. Here's a second look. See if you can pick out the difference so you can spy in on what's going on. Okay, this is the second one. Did you see Yente on the 5th row? Her skirt is so short, I can't concentrate on my sermon. See, this is what went what was going on under the surface all this time. All right, on a personal level, we shared both simchas and sad events. A few of them are as follows: the wedding, the welcoming of both Natan and Ari into his family, into our community. The 100-year snowstorm of Avi's bar mitzvah. We decided to make Avi's bar mitzvah on his birthday initially, which was January 8th. Then we had second thoughts, and we decided that's too much in danger of being snowed out. So we went to March 13th, 1993, which ended up being the 100-year storm, and all the bridges were closed. Nobody could come to the bar mitzvah. I had to go door to door to beg people to come to the bar mitzvah because I wanted Avi to have a memory. Anyway, that's part of the things that we went through. The weddings of my children, all the weddings of my children. The passing of your parents, Gary, and my father, Eileen, your mother. The birth of my 6 grandchildren, the darlings of my life, the rejuvenators of my aging body. On a professional level, I appreciate what I have learned from you, Gary, and your sharp intellect. Thank you for accepting my input into the cause. Our philosophies sometimes did not mesh together, but on the ikar, on the essence, we always did match. To conclude, I was inspired by Naomi Shemer, who wrote a song called Al Kol Eile. Okay, and what does a cantor do? He sings, right? So I composed a little something to you, Gary, okay? Al Kol Eile, Al Kol Eile, Shmor na li chaveri hatov, Al Kol Eile, Al Kol Eile, Shmor na li chaveri hatov. For the time together, for the lessons taught and learned, for the love and respect, for the Shabbatot and high holidays, for the Moadim Lesimcha, for the bar and bat mitzvot, for the weddings and the funerals, for the sharing of Beth Tikva. Al Kol Eile, Al Kol Eile, Shmor na li chaveri hatov. Al Kol Eile, Al Kol Eile, Shmor na li chaveri hatov. Gary, stay well, my good, good friend.
Okay. Before we continue on, here's another little joke for you. Did I hear another uh-oh? Okay, so if a doctor carries a black box and a plumber carries a toolbox, what box does a mohel carry? That would be a bris kit. All right, next up on the roster is kind of the new kid in town. But we love this guy to death. Rabbi Nathan.
Believe it or not, I first met Rabbi Gans in Eagle River, Wisconsin, of all places.
Where the heck is that?
I'll get there. It had to be Beshert that Gary Gans would become the man who would be my mentor, my confidant, my friend, and my teacher. I applied for the job of rabbinic intern at Congregation Beth Tikva while working as the Judaics director at the JCC overnight camp in Eagle River. I received the date for my interview and was told that by sheer coincidence, that night, the congregation's rabbi would be in Eagle River visiting his son Ari, who attends the Ramah overnight camp across town. We decided that I would meet up with the rabbi at his hotel and sit with him in the lobby while we Skyped to Roseanne, Linda, and Sylvia, who were comfortably sitting back in Marlton. The interview went well, and I got the job. So began my time with Beth Tikva. Following the interview, I went to shake Rabbi Gans' hand in preparation for leaving. And he said, "Look, I'm a graduate of the college. My wife's a graduate of the college. Even if you don't get the job at Beth Tikva, you're going to be a colleague of ours in a few years. May we take you to dinner? Let's get to know one another better." I did join them, and I got to learn about Rabbi Gans and Rabbi Schneider, their paths to the rabbinate, and their careers as rabbis. That menschlichkeit and that collegiality is what first impressed me about Rabbi Gans on our first meeting. I couldn't have asked for a better supervisor and mentor. What we have is something very unique, and is something that I've cherished and will continue to cherish. We genuinely enjoy each other's company. We enjoy discussing Beth Tikva business, our families, our personal struggles, and our accomplishments. You become a close friend as well as a colleague. Congregants often reflect to me that it seems like Rabbi Gans and I are having fun on the Bima together. We are, and it's always authentic. Even when we disagree on points of Jewish practice or congregational management, Rabbi Gans has always, from day one, approached me and my opinions with kavod, respect. He's allowed me to be me. He often tells the story of how in one of his early positions before coming to Beth Tikva, he worked for a rabbi who actively tried to assert authority over him, would do his best to derail what he was working on, and even contradicted him publicly. Rabbi Gans fully and explicitly made it his mission to never do that with me, but rather to nurture me and to love me, helping me to grow into my full rabbinic capacity as me, and I'm forever grateful for that. Some words of advice that I've received from Rabbi Gans over the years that I want to share with you because perhaps they'll have some resonance with you as well. First, he said this to me on Rosh Hashanah, my first time on the Bima with Beth Tikva. He says, "When you're on the Bima, it is your Bima. Own it and confidently take people where you want them to go." Number two, keep a bottle of Purell around. You're going to shake a lot of hands. Number three, create time for yourself and your family and friends. Serve the community in the best way you can, but make sure you leave enough for yourself. Number four, take joy in being with these people through the ups and downs. He said, "I've been with some of these people through generations. Marriages, births, deaths, b'nai mitzvah, britot, namings, all in the same family. And there's something very beautiful and very powerful to that for me." Number five, find what inspires you and run with it. And number 6, love this community. There's something special about this synagogue, these people, that have made me want to stay here for 35 years. I hope you'll see it, and that you are as lucky as I've been. Rabbi Gans has consistently been an inspirational figure to me. Rabbi, you've invited me into your home and into your family. I could think of nobody who I would rather share the bima with as the rabbi of this congregation. Today, as you transition to becoming the emeritus, know that your wisdom, your thoughtfulness, and your joy of teaching will remain deeply valued by me and considered precious by our congregation. I look forward to many years of partnership and synergy in service of this community. Thank you for guiding me and for trusting me with your baby, our beloved Beth Tikva. Been asked to read a letter to you from the Reconstructionist Rabbinical Association. Dear members and supporters of Congregation Beth Tikva, we're writing to offer our congratulations and celebrate with you 35 years of leadership and service upon the retirement of Rabbi Gary Gans. Rabbi Gans' tenure at your congregation has been a remarkable journey for the community. From your small ranch house beginnings to this beautiful building, and through several generations of families, Beth Tikva has grown, thrived, and flourished into a vibrant, fully engaged community. Rabbi Gans has been a leader, teacher, enthusiastic visionary, and gentle co-seeker on this journey. We in the Reconstructionist Rabbinical Association celebrate Rabbi Gans' success and are grateful to count him as one of our illustrious members. Although we are unable to join you on this auspicious occasion, we wish you a hearty mazel tov and yasher koach. We wish you many blessings as your community and Rabbi Gans enter this new stage of your relationship. May you go from strength to strength. Sincerely, Rabbi Nina Mandel, President, and Rabbi Elise Wechterman, Executive Director of the Reconstructionist Rabbinical Association. To conclude, I'd like to read a bracha by Rabbi Elliot Kukla. May the one who blessed our ancestors, Sarah, Rebecca, Rachel, Leah, Zilpah, and Bilhah, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, bless you as you enter this new chapter in your life. The world was not formed by a single act. Each and every day, God renews the work of creation. May God grant you the strength to constantly renew your own creation. May you open your heart and mind to continuous growth, unexpected change, and the perpetual unsettling, liberating expansion of being alive. May you have the courage to name and sanctify this moment of change that is shaping your body and soul in the image of the divine. Blessed are you, El Shaddai, our God, the renewing one of the world, who has kept us alive and sustained us and allowed us to reach this time of transformation. And let us say, Amen.
Ladies and gentlemen, our president of our congregation, Rachel Kramer.
It's really bad to go last. After everything everybody said, it's a good thing I have different memories. So, Rabbi, 34 years ago, a young couple asked a young rabbi to marry us. And here we are, lifetimes later, still involved, still passionate, still working together at our home away from home, CBT. We've celebrated together, Nathan. This would be one of those families. Weddings, ours, and then Leah and Jordan's just a couple years ago. Leah's naming, Jacob's bris, bar and bat mitzvah, Israel trips. You remember Y2K, right? And confirmations. You remember the time you were supposed to give the sermon at the Thanksgiving interfaith service, but you lost your voice? So I read your speech. Or the time we went to a Shiva Minyan and only you and I knew the prayers. Or the time we almost didn't get to the cemetery in North Jersey because it was getting too close to Yontif to get in. Or the time that the building next door burned down. Or the night we decided to light all those Hanukkot and they all started melting and falling down. It was amazing. And then there was that man, I think I finally remembered his name, the tobacco chewing guy who used to open and close the building for us. Well, there's lots of memories like that. And with your leadership, we've become the close-knit community that we are today. So many holidays, simchas, services, events, and memories, and in your case, sermons. Why, for the high holidays alone, I calculate there was at least 145, give or take. And that doesn't even include Shabbat or other holidays. Often, for your high holiday services, you like to start out with a story or what you call the hook. And some of them have stuck with me all these years. Going all the way back to the Cooper School, there was the six-pack of Jewish life. Then there were the baseball stories, and of course, the football stories. One year, you talked about walking on the wall in Jerusalem, and another, more recently, were the children's letters to God. And you always accused me of remembering the hook, but never the message. So now it's my turn. Since Passover was just last month, I thought we would look at the Seder plate as a metaphor of your years at CBT. You may never look at the Seder plate the same way again. Passover is our holiday of freedom, redemption from slavery. For you, having worked full-time, your slavery, are now ready to transition to retirement, your redemption, or emeritus status. I know you don't like the R word. The Seder plate, sitting at the center of the table, holds the symbols of the holiday, but by itself, it's empty, alone, and means nothing. However, with all of the items in their places, it gives meaning to the holiday, or in this case, your years at CBT. So too, our building, your office, are just bricks and mortar when empty. But when you are in them, they become the center of our community life, helping us to bring life and meaning into that special place. At the head of the plate is the shank bone, the symbol of action. By marking their doorways, the Jews proved that they were ready for action. They knew change was possible, and so too for you. You're ready for change. The Zeroah has been likened to the outstretched arm, a giving hand, reaching out and caring for others, as you have done for us for so many years. And as so many have said before, you have always been there for us, for CBT, for me and my family. The bitter herb, a symbol of sadness in life, reminds us of your empathy and compassion for others at the saddest times. The karpas, a symbol of spring and renewal, and of the proliferation of life, grows low to the ground as a sign of humility. The greens remind us of your passion for recycling and composting, of your enthusiasm for genealogy and for our ancestors who enabled us to be here today. A reminder of all the weddings that you have performed to start new Jewish families. The charoset, a reminder of the mortar or cement used to build, also reminds us of your teaching us of the strength and endurance of the Jewish people. In addition, it's a symbol of the 2 building expansions that we had during these last 35 years. Also, the charoset brings the sweetness of the Seder plate, as you have been with us to celebrate the simchas and joys, so that we know that life is a combination of the bitter and the sweet. And of course, the egg, a symbol of rebirth, of renewal, just as every year we turn back to Breshit and start the story over again. You've taught us about the cycle of the Jewish year, the annual cycle of the Torah readings, and you've celebrated life cycle events with each of us and all of us. And now is your opportunity to restart with new opportunities, a new look at life, and even a new office. Together, we will navigate this change, but I know that you have built a dedicated, caring, and close community ready to face this challenge. And now, it's time for you to come up. So, thank you for all you have done, for all of us, for all of these 35 years. On behalf of the congregation, I'm pleased to present to you this Seder plate, this magnificent Seder plate. I will read what's written on it. In celebration of Rabbi Gary Gans for 35 years of leadership of CBT and today's date. I hope that each time you use it, you will remember today and the added meaning for each of the items you place on it. Thank you, Kevin.
I deeply appreciate sharing this transitional day for me, for us, for our community, our congregation, and to be sharing it with 180 plus people who are so important in my family life, our friends, and the community in the synagogue. In a way, that's an interesting number of life multiplying 18 times a terrific factor, and it does represent the life of our community. We are in a great place. We are moving forward with a great deal of energy, initiative, and a sense of purpose. And I am just a transitional guy in between as we move forward as this community. However, I have to tell you that after all these lovely speeches, when Harry Platt stood up to talk, I was afraid that he was planning my funeral speech. Because this actually would go a bit long for one of his chapel ceremonies. So in 120 years, we'll talk about it again. I first of all would like to thank all of those who had a hand in creating this day, who made this event happen. Incidentally, I did hear the word affair go by. I prefer the word reception for obvious reasons. One of my colleagues was much more involved in his synagogue affairs. He's sharing a space with Bubba about now. So I do want to thank all those who are involved. And I have a list of the most involved. If I missed a few names along the way, feel free to tell me afterwards. Donna has been the key person for me, has done an excellent job of keeping me out of the loop. But I knew that we were in good hands. You may remember previous anniversary events on my behalf. I was so involved, I even helped pick the color of the stationery for the invitation and decided with someone what bond paper we would have. This time, I was not allowed to help micromanage, but I knew that things would work smoothly with all the others who worked along with Donna. Sylvia Jacobs, Freda Sakaro, Elaine and Fred Emmer, Bobby Levine, Judy Minchus, Mark Walzer, and Holly Friedman. But they had additional supports. They also were helped by Howard Friedman, Barry Yelowitz, where did he go? Oh, there you are. Roseanne Lemansky, Diane Druss, and Barbara Mursky. And then there's another category, friends of the committee. Now, I don't know if they had to pay dues as friends of the organization, but Steve Stern and Bill Krasson are AV guys who are creating these memories and mementos for moving forward. It's hard to hear speeches about yourself. You almost want to stand and say, but there was that other day. It's just as well. Who knew that 35 years would pass? Some of you remarked at my tie, and you've noticed that I like to wear ties somehow based on either the Torah portion, the Cantor and I are thinking of a side job inventing those, or something symbolic to the moment. So my tie today is a painting of Salvador Dali of clocks that are melting. Time takes on a different perspective in his painting and my tie, and time takes on a different perspective for me as well. 35 years. I never thought I'd be old enough to say that something happened 35 years ago. 35 years ago, when I arrived at CBT, I was a different person. I knew all the answers. I knew it all. Now, 35 years later, I'm not even sure I understand all the questions. I have matured, I've ripened, and I've been your rabbi for over half my life. And 95% of my rabbinic career has been with our community. When people would ask me, who are you? You know, I've had an identity enmeshment here where it's been hard for me to separate who I am from our congregation. It's been hard to separate my own identity as an individual from being our and your rabbi. And that may end up being one of the most difficult transitions for me, is to know how and when to transition, to step back, and allow poor Rabbi Nathan to change the diapers, and then, like the grandparent, to step back and smile and be happy. But he'll get to do the day-to-day decision-making, the day-to-day leadership. And I'm really confident in his strength and in his abilities. Let me go back a little bit more first. Nancy referred to the 1950s ranch house. Sorry? The house itself was made in the 50s. We didn't buy it until a while ago. Our services were in the basement. We had to ask everyone to refrain from flushing the toilet so that we could have a service, or worse, a conversation or discussion downstairs. Because if somebody went upstairs, we would know who it was and exactly what was going on. And it was not conducive to prayer. We didn't have any municipal utilities. The well that water was used for that toilet was polluted. And the only potable water was from a water dispenser when we could find somebody strong enough to lift those great big bottles of water, remember those machines, onto the tub there so that we could at least drink something, have some input. We lacked a fancy sanctuary. We didn't have an acceptable place for prayer. The ranch house had converted bedrooms that became classrooms. And my office was a partitioned alcove off of the kitchen. Why did I come to CBT? And why did I stay? I already addressed some of that. What I did see from the very beginning was a very special community, a deep, abiding commitment to Judaism and to building a supportive Jewish outpost in what were then the rural environs of New Jersey. We were the pioneers. We were the chalutzim. We literally created our chevra, our community, from the ground up. Those who take their CBT connection seriously understand the value of this family, of this clan that we have become part of as a family of choice and what we represent to each other. There was a reciprocal awareness of our breaking ground, not just in the soil, that ugly green clay of Marlton, but we were revolutionary. We were the first conservative congregation in the region to consider women and men as co-equals in the religious and leadership spheres. It's common practice today. We take it for granted. But we were the head of that charge. We offered that first opening shot in the Jewish culture war. Others benefit now because of what we did. Others don't even know how difficult that was. The political fights, the religious fights. The community was not warmly accepting what we knew was the right way. But over the course of years, they all accepted it and said, oh yeah, we meant to all along. That was not anywhere near the truth. I'm honored by our congregation's presence today, the community and the representatives, by members of my family and friends from extending way back, even as far as elementary school, some of us go back. And we've seen each other's lives grow and change and prosper. And we've been together for those difficult times that we've inferred from some of the earlier speakers. First, I want to acknowledge Eileen, my wife. So the synagogue came into fruition in 1976. So did we. So as the synagogue is celebrating our 40th anniversary, so too in 2 weeks we celebrate our 40th wedding anniversary. She's been my Ezer Kenegdo, my helpmate, supporter, and fellow traveler, with family, with life, fellow rabbinate, and support there. In addition to being my sounding board, she also helped me create safe boundaries for our personal and professional lives so they would not be entangled. We knew when to bring home our various professional persona and when to leave that at the door and just be Gary and Eileen. Eileen and I have personally experienced the treasure of life's bounties and the inherent upheavals that come with the realities of our lives, as you do too. It was with our extended CBT family that you brought meaning and fellowship to the ebb and flow of our lives. We still get goosebumps. We still get thrills and chills, remembering our personal excitement and wonderment, as well as the immediate response of CPT at the arrival and the britot of Natan and then Ari. You shared those exhilarating moments. We still recall every whispered blessing at that time. I thank the now Natan and Ari as adults, mostly, for their understanding, for their difficulty in trying to balance my responsibilities at home and at the synagogue. I also wish for them what I have experienced. The following phrase I also mentioned at holidays. I like this so much, I'm telling you it again. This is my wish for them. The blessing of meaningful careers. I wish that you have a sense of purpose and the knowledge that you have made a difference with a community with which you can share your lives as well. Conversely, you, our extended CBT family, has been with us as we mourned the deaths of 3 of our parents, 2 of them just last year. We are honored that Eileen's father, Marshall, was able to make the demanding trip and be with us today for this simcha. For the record, we've been speaking about this succession plan, this transition plan, for a long time now. And throughout every conversation I ever had, there's only been one person who ever said, "But you're too young to retire." And that would be my father-in-law's aide, Jackie. Of course, she spends her days with the advanced senior citizens in Florida, so we have to question her objectivity. The great days in the rabbinate are exhilarating. They're empowering. These are the days that I participated with you in repairing the broken pieces of the world. Tikkun olam, repairing the world. I've been blessed to sanctify your simchas, britot and baby namings, weddings, and even second generation weddings and second generation baby namings. You know, when Rabbi Nathan spoke about my first pulpit in Philadelphia, despite my senior rabbi, I couldn't figure out why he stayed there so long. What was he doing just vegetating in downtown Philadelphia? I was his perky and new associate rabbi with great ideas, and we really didn't have a good working relationship, not even a good personal relationship. It took me a long time of being here to really understand what being with one community for a long period of time really means. When I sadly officiate at a funeral, but several years later can use that deceased person's name and revive it with a naming for a new child who is just born to that family, is as uplifting and supportive as you can get. I'm involved with you not just with the happy events, the sad events, but also as we renew and re-understand the life cycle that's taken place. And sadly, we've been together during some of your job disruptions, your illnesses, your funerals, your divorces, and we've come through together, hopefully as whole people. For decades, I've been joined by my Bima buddy and davening partner, Cantor Joe Leibovic. We spend time on the Bima, we spend time at Eagles games, we spend time with our families. And your mother-in-law once gave great advice to Eileen, who was making gefilte fish, on how to change her recipe a little bit. So we have lots of stuff that's been going on. We've celebrated each other's simchas and tzuras. And I've learned from him, while he has made prayer meaningful and enjoyable to me, he is a consistent mensch. Thank you, Haver. Thank you, my friend. Now I turn to Rabbi Nathan. He started a long time ago as our student intern. What a sensitive and creative individual we have revealed him to be for us. In the beginning, as he also said, I was his mentor and his advisor. And that relationship flourished. Oh, how he blossomed. Over time, he has emerged now as my colleague, my friend, and my peer. I am confident in turning over the rabbinic leadership of CBT to him. By the way, you should know that he is older now than I was when I came to CBT. I appreciated his reflection of our relationship. I affirm it. It is good for the two of us, and it's good for our congregation. And it's good to know that, like the grandparent now, I'm turning the baby over to you. You change the diapers. Now, I'm not ready to shuffle off this mortal coil yet. And certainly not heading for the rocking chair. As I'm preparing for my next stage of life, I am proud to become the first Rabbi Emeritus of Congregation Beth Tikva. And maybe in 35 years, we'll have a second Rabbi Emeritus. And then we'll really fight over parking spots. Although, in 35 years, I may need one for my walker or wheelchair. I'm not really going totally away. As you know, I will still be with us part-time for the next couple of years. I'll be focusing my energy on adult education, which I love teaching, love having you come and challenge me. I'll be available and present for selected holidays and Shabbat services, counseling, and collaborating on life cycle events. Ultimately, we don't know the plan. It's not our plan. We don't know what one's future will bring. But we can know what we will bring to that future. I bring incredible memories, a sense of identity, a sense of fulfillment to know that we've carried the congregation to this point and the bridge is working to the next generations. You've heard my favorite phrase a couple of times today, including when I, just so you understand, taped it for Avi before the snowstorm, before Shabbat. This was the message that my rabbi brought to every one of his bar and bat mitzvah students every single Shabbat. Warren, he gave it to you. Jeff gave it to you. Steve. What I didn't know is that he actually was paraphrasing Winston Churchill. Here I thought Leo Landman invented it. Nonetheless, he gave me the message. I took the message. I internalized it, and I offered it to every single one of my students. And I apply it to myself. And the message then was, this is not the end, it is only the beginning. I'm turning the chapters, a new page in the book. I'm not closing the book. There is a great deal yet to be written and experienced, to live and to love with all of you, and the future will continue to be bright for us all. So I thank you for the first 35 years, and strength to all of us. Thank you.